I hope you can hear me now.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, I think there is something wrong with the settings today. So it seems that you all can speak as well when I'm speaking. It's not totally the way to do it. So yeah, maybe if I can ask you to put yourself on mute, that's the best thing. If in the end there are some questions, of course, we can always have a look how to respond to your questions in the end, of course. What we will do today is to go through the process of purchase of a home in the Netherlands. We will start with some general information also on the company I'm working for at the moment, VK Makelaars and Taxateurs. Then we will go through some market information and then through the process of buying a house itself. If there are some questions, you can always pop them in the chat, or you can wait until the end of the presentation and then we can come back to them. So important for you to know as well, who are we? As I said, we are VK Makelaars and Taxateurs. And we are a VBO member. What does that mean? Is that we are part of a real estate association as a realtor and as an appraiser, and we are active now since 2019. And technology is not helping me tonight. This is better. We have our offices in Haarlem and Amsterdam. And in general, we are active in the Randstad. I will give you some more details as well, totally in the end when we discuss our services. We are with 8 realtors at the moment. And what is important to us is that we always say we work according to the 4 Ps. That means we have a personal approach, a proactive approach as well, and we are punctual and precise. That's how we do it. And I think that most of our clients like it until today, as we get a very good rating as well on the different platforms. As I said, we worked on the 4 Ps, good rating. You can find that online as well. What is important for you to know is that we can help you with the purchase of a house. We can help you with selling your house as well, if that is at stake. We offer rent assistance. We let for the landlords. And as I said, we also do the valuation. Next to that, we also offer property management services. That's when you have 1 property or more properties and you want us to take care of the tenants. And we do also appraisal, of course. Myself, I have 15 years of experience in real estate at the moment. I'm lawyer in the end. I followed law school, but I followed also a master in real estate of 2 years, going a little bit more in depth on economy, everything that surrounds real estate. And I'm a member of RICS as well. If there are some people from UK, they will know for sure. I'm born in Belgium myself, so I'm also an expat in the Netherlands. And I'm a happy father of a little daughter who is 4, going to school soon. And what is important maybe as well to mention is you can call me anytime. Of course, when I'm sleeping, I will not pick up, but for all the other moments in the day, even in the evening, no problem. You can always reach out to me. This is the team of VK Makelaars. You can see all the different persons, and what we mentioned as well, and that you can see on the back feeds or the bike that you see over there, is that we think that it's important to work with no nonsense, as we call it. So straight to the point, and helping you really for what you're looking for, not giving too much information if that is not needed, but of course share with you everything that you need to be successful in your house search. And then the first thing I already want to dive in immediately is the news that you see on a daily basis, for sure. There are a lot of news articles, and they are important to follow. What you maybe read is that there are some more restrictions for private investors. Already on today, for example, self-occupancy clauses that apply, that in some municipalities, when you buy a house, and for certain regions or for a certain WZ value, then you need to go to live in the property yourself. Otherwise, you are not able to buy that property. Also, taxes that are related will be different. Very important. What is also important is the fact that in the new legislation to come, it can be that for private investors, they will tax them on a personal level also a little bit different, and it can be less interesting to invest in properties. The last thing that maybe is important is also that the rent in the mid segment maybe will be capped. So also that will have an impact on your investment, just to know. Then what you saw as well regarding mortgage conditions to apply for a mortgage, there will get a little bit more difficult, not for like a normal person who has a normal income and who is like how do you say that, the average family of two people earning together some salary. But if you're divorced, or also when you're an entrepreneur, it will get a little bit more difficult. So we come to that later, but your mortgage, one of the most important steps to take into account. Then we see as well that it is clear on the actual market that there are less applications for mortgages in Q3 2022. That also has to do with holidays, also with mortgage rates going up, but it's also a little bit like some factor in the market and a certain element that shows that the market is slowing down a little bit as well. And then what we see as well, that there are less candidates for viewings. There are also less offers. It doesn't mean that for every house that you're looking at, that it means that it's sold at a lower price. But for some properties, it applies. So very important to keep that in mind as well. The market is a little bit slowing down. We come to that in a minute, of course. Permits of new builds, that's a very important one. They show also that until May 2022, but also after that, it is clear that there are less permits for new builds that are agreed on or even asked for by developers. So that means that there is less new builds coming into the market. That's not a good thing, of course. It means that the shortage will still grow, but maybe it will balance out a little bit with the mortgage rates. We come on that point, on that specific point, we come to that in a minute as well to explain the balance in the market. And then what is also important, maybe less for you guys, but if you have like Jan Modal, they call him, and it's like the normal Dutch guy who earns with the total family around 65,000 euros, that on today he cannot buy 80% of the houses in the market anymore. It says something. It says as well that some people in the Netherlands are not able to buy a property anymore, and they need to be happy that they can rent a property, but buying a property will maybe never be the case in their specific situation. Important, as I said, the other solution for buying a property is renting a property, of course. Maybe a lot of you are doing that already on today, so I will not make it too long, but there are some positive and negative points at both sides. If you look at the rent, of course, it's flexible. You can go to a certain place, stay there for a while, and if you don't like it, then you just move and you search a place somewhere else. That's flexible. That's very interesting for people that maybe don't know exactly in which neighborhood they want to stay. Of course, the good thing is well that you have a low or no maintenance costs. Those costs will be, most of the time always in charge of the landlord. So he will need to manage the building and also pay the maintenance costs. So as a tenant, that's a good thing. The property is also insured by the landlord. That's one of the costs he needs to bear. Of course, you're not guaranteed to stay forever. If you have like a 2-year contract and it ends, the landlord can decide not to continue with you and take another tenant. And then, of course, you need to move out and search for something else, which is not always that easy. And of course, the rent can also be adapted according to inflation, the indexation of the rent. So that means as well that, it's not always clear. It's clear what you pay on today, but maybe not next year or the years to come. And of course, you don't build up some equity. The rent, of course, is a cost, so you will just pay that cost to the landlord. That is, of course, the negative point of renting. The positive thing in buying. With buying, you build up equity. It depends a little bit on the mortgage, but if you take a normal mortgage, you will build up some equity. Yeah, you can adapt everything in the house to your own wishes, of course. You are the boss in the house as you are the owner yourself. The interest rate on mortgages is tax deductible. That still is, so that is very interesting. And you can choose or opt for a mortgage with monthly installments that are fixed. So you will always know how much you will pay every month and every year. Of course, you need to pay the maintenance cost, as I said, and you will have to pay also owner taxes. That's of course, related to being an owner. And of course, that you always have the risk of the value of the property. That is clear. The opposite is true as well. If the value increases, then you will also have the gains of that. So it's the plus and the minus. I give you one example over here, what to do. We have here a purchase price of 600,000 euros for a property that you can rent at 1,900 euros a month. I have to say it depends a little bit on the cities, but if you're going to look in Amsterdam, you're not going to find too much properties anymore that you can rent at 1,900 euros. But let's take it as an example. What you can see then, of course, is that you pay a rent of around 1,900 euros a month compared to when you buy, you have a mortgage. Here I took the interest rate around 3.25%. Maybe at the moment it's around more likely to be around 350. That's possible, but let's take it as an example. Then your gross monthly payments for that mortgage to buy the property are 2,600 euros. But as I said, you also have some benefits on tax-wise, so the net monthly payments will in the end be around 2,031 euros. Yeah, that means still if you buy a property, you pay 131 euros more than when you rent that same property. Of course, as I said before, a big difference is that you build up equity with buying a house and you don't with renting a house. So you build up equity with the mortgage. In this specific example, it's a calculation that we did of 1,670 euros. Deducted of that, of course, the maintenance cost, as I said, you are the landlord. So that means you have a positive amount of 1,039 euros when you buy the house. Yeah. So in this specific example, or you rent it for 1,900 or you buy it for 600,000 at an interest rate of 3.25%, then it means that if you buy it, and the most important over there, of course, is building the equity, you have savings of around 1,039 euros per month just by buying that property. Yeah. If you want to receive all conditions that we applied over here, you can always ask for it. Or if you want us to help you to calculate a specific situation, we can do that for you as well, of course. Always interesting to have a look at it before you start and to see what are your options. But as I said, building up equity, if that is important for you, then buying at any moment, most of the time is always the best solution. And then we go to the specific market, as I said, and the market information. What maybe is important to have a look at in first place is the housing price index if we start in 1995. Yeah. What you see over here is that we have, of course, a steep increase for sure the last couple of years. But you see as well that we had a little downturn in 2010, between 2010 and 2015. You see that we had a downturn in the market as well. Important to know, that was the result of the banking crisis in 2008. And it also had to do with the fact how houses were financed at that time, where it was still possible also to finance 130% of the houses. And the banks were also a little bit more easy with giving a mortgage to everyone that applied for that, which had as a result in the end that, houses prices went down. There were a lot of houses that came to the market. And as a result, of course, the prices went down again. So between 2010 and 2015, you see clearly the drop. As of 2015, you see the increase. And then for sure, since 2020, you see that prices went up quite steep. What does that mean for today? In this next slide, you see that Still, the housing prices index for the first half of the year in 2022, it went up as well. You have to see, of course, we went from 181 towards 188 something. So it went up. It didn't went up that fast as the last couple of years. That is clear. And the most important factor for that is also very obvious. It all has all to do with the interest rates on the mortgages that apply over there. Yeah, but still, if you want to know how the house prices are doing on today, you still see that we go up. We see and we believe that maybe Q3 will show some numbers that there is a stabilization in the market. That is to expect, but until now we don't see prices go down yet. Of course, we don't have a crystal ball, so we always need to see what happens. Of course, we see that in the months like August, as I said, we see less visitors, less offers. So at a certain moment, it can be that we see a little bit of a downturn in the market, but to have that total effect on that, will come to you in a moment. What is important still to look a little bit at the numbers. What we see in number of houses sold, -1% on a year-to-year basis in Q2 compared to 2021, so that was quite stable. Average purchase price in the Netherlands, 448,000 euros. So that's already a decent amount. Sales period 24 days, still quite short, of course. And then we saw a big impact as well on the new builds. Here we saw that not only the permits are a little bit behind, but also the number of new builds that being sold went down with 48%. It has a lot to do also with the material costs, which if you buy a new build, you will need to pay as well in some way or another. And it means as well that some people that were looking for a new build now, they hold on a little bit and wait what the market is going to do until they go forward in buying that place. So yeah, a big decrease for new builds. Average price 483,000. I come to that in a minute as well. If I don't say anything in specific, I'm always talking about existing properties in this presentation. It's only when we go really in detail about new builds that I will explain something about new builds, because both for prices and also the process, buying an existing property and buying a new build, it's not totally the same. Yeah. If you want some information on new builds, we can share that with you as well. In Q4, we're also going to do a webinar about it, but it is a different process, so keep that in mind. Yeah. And then because a lot of expats also come to Amsterdam, it's still one of the most important cities in the Netherlands as well, having a big impact on the total real estate market. I show you some numbers as well, what happened in Amsterdam in Q2. There you see that yeah, the number of houses sold quarter to quarter went up with 30%, but on a yearly base it was -7%. Average purchase price is higher than the average in the Netherlands, of course, already at 574,000 euros. So looking in Amsterdam, you need a little bit of a bigger budget. And we also saw that the price per square meter went up to 6,725, so plus 14.3% on a yearly basis. Important to keep that in mind, even on a quarterly basis, it went up with 6%. But also important to look at the prices per square meter, because depending on how the numbers are calculated, it can make a little bit of a difference. Sales period, Amsterdam, a little bit higher than the average, 26 days, but still you sell quite fast if you live in the Netherlands. And then what I told you earlier is, of course, there are some drivers of the real estate prices. And maybe they are more important than only to look at the actual numbers. In the sense that with these drivers and what to expect of them, we can foresee a little bit what will happen in the market. Although I mentioned it before, we don't have a glass ball, but we can say something. The first important thing is the offer and demand. Offer and demand in the market of existing properties and new builds. We see two different things happening over there. With the existing market, we see that a lot of people put their houses on the market, I have to say, and that's normal as well. In August, it's always a little bit lower, as a lot of people and a lot of selling agents as well wait until September to put the houses in the market, because they expect more people to come back from holidays and so have more viewers and have a higher price of the house that they are selling. But in general, people that have a house and that maybe bought a new build that is almost finished, they want to know as well, how much do I sell my house now? Because they calculated as well what they would receive from their old or existing house to go to that new place. So existing properties come more to the market than, for example, at the end of last year. With the new builds, I already mentioned to you, the numbers show, and also the news shows that over there, there are less permits for new builds, also less properties coming to the market. And it seems also that people are not buying too much of new builds at the moment. So there we see that what is important over there is we need new builds in total of the Netherlands. If there is still a structural problem of a lack of 300,000 units or houses. So we need normally to build 100,000 houses every year. Also taking into account with the expectations of the population still growing. Then we need like 10 years, 100,000 houses. And we see that on today, we do a maximum of 60 or 70,000 houses. Yeah. The new minister wanted to do something about it, but until now it seems not to work. Even the contrary is true. So that means that the offer in the market in total will stay a little bit behind on the demand that there is in the market. That is important to know. What is also important to know is the fiscal benefits. You can be exempted from transfer tax. You normally pay 2% if you go to live in a property, but can exempt it until a certain amount. If you buy 400,000 and you're younger than 35, then you don't pay any transfer taxes. It's 0%. If you buy as an investor, it's 8% in the meantime. But still, low transfer taxes, that's important. Then you see as well that people buy and sell more frequently than if the tax is high. Tax rebates, as I said already, that part of the interest rate will be deducted from your salary before it gets taxed. So that's good. You pay less taxes just because of the fact that you bought a home with a mortgage. And the third point is very important as well. It's the overvalue that is exempted. That means, of course, that if you buy a house and value goes up, you sell it again, you can use that total overvalue again for buying that new property. One of the reasons that the last couple of years, of course, the values went higher and the purchase prices went higher, because people that were in the market, as I call it, that had a house already, sold it, bought a new one, they could use that overvalue to invest in a new property. There are some rumors that they say, yeah, should we not tax the overvalue of homeowners? There are some rumors at the moment. Nobody took a decision on that. So until today, overvalue is still exempted. And then, of course, you have the next point. It's the finance cost. That's a very important one. What we see is that you have two elements over there. We can split it up between the mortgage, of course, it's the most important one. The mortgage is, of course, the real cost that you're going to pay to have the money to buy your property and to finance it. We saw that the interest rates went up from beginning of the year. I think they were still around 1.5, a little bit below 2% for sure. And end of July, they were at 4% already. So they doubled on the long run on the mortgages for a longer term. So they had an important impact on the market. That's the reason why the market is slowing down, and why we see as well that for some properties, maybe there is not an overbidding anymore as we were used to in the past. So mortgage interest rates, very important to have a look at. I come to that also a little bit further in the presentation again. It seems that numbers show that for the next couple of months and also for September, that the interest rates maybe will go down a little bit again, but that is not absolutely sure, but it is expected. So keep that in mind, because it can be a good moment then in September, October, to get a house at a good price to say, and to finance at a good interest rate as well. The next point financing, of course, is the buying power in general. If, of course, you need to use a lot of your salary also to buy other things, then it is likely if you make an offer for a house that you will think twice and maybe offer a little bit of a lower price. That is, of course, something that in the long run will not stay forever. If we have an inflation, then that will not stay forever. Maybe there is a recession coming as well. What will be the impact of that is not sure. We are not even sure that it will happen. But if you believe the experts, it is likely. Of course, what I always say is that if you, at the moment that the market is having difficulties, you have the power and also the financial power to step into the market, then often you can buy at a good price. And in the end, the market will always pick up again, for sure, for real estate, for sure, because of the reasons that I said, that offer is still low and demand is still high. So at a certain moment, if you also watched that graph that I showed you in the beginning, there can be a little bit of downturn for a certain moment, but then it will always goes up. And on today, nobody believes that we will experience the same as 2008 or 2010 because of the fact that the financing of buying a house now is different than it was over there, and recession will be temporary but not for eternity. We have also the material costs I explained already, very important, of course, because it makes as well that new builds will get more expensive, and then alternative for a new build is an existing house. That will also always push existing prices up a little bit if material costs go up. Of course, depending also what you are interested in, but if you buy a new build, always check on your contract, because those contracts often will foresee that if material costs go up, that the developer or the seller can charge that to the buyer of that new build. And so if you buy now, but over 1 year they start building and material costs went up again, then it means that you need to calculate some extra savings or have a good mortgage for that to cover those expenses. And of course, you have also the alternatives that are important to look at, the rental market or other housing solutions. That's also very clear. In the Netherlands, we spoke about the fact that maybe the ministry is thinking for the private market to have the mid-cap rent, to have it capped as well, just because of the fact that rental prices are going sky high at the moment. And that also, again, has to do with the first element, the offer is low and the demand is high. Taking all those things into account, I think the solution or the conclusion is that at the moment, it can be that we have a temporary dip for sure because of mortgage interest rates going up. And that even maybe with inflation, buying power going down a little bit and recession, that the prices will go down a little bit again. At the other side, that is a temporary effect, I believe. As I read until now, that mortgage rates maybe will increase after some time again. It can be the ideal moment to finance a property that you buy at a good price just because of all the conditions that I explained. And then if you go to that market, you made your calculations, you say, okay, I'm ready for it. Then you also need to know what you're doing, of course. I mentioned it sometimes, but new builds and existing houses, that's something different. So on new builds, you don't pay transfer tax. You don't need an appraisal because just the selling price will be the amount that your mortgage provider will offer to you, with some exceptions. When you have a property that is really totally out of scope with all the properties that were sold in that neighborhood, then maybe they will ask for that, but normally it's not necessary. And of course, you will have a very good energy label. Also, energy label now, of course, on today as well, with that high energy costs in the future will even be more important. Maintenance costs are low, so in the long run, that's very good for your wallet. Of course, you can do your own finishing of the house, so you can make it totally the way that you like. What is then some negative points about it as well is some double housing costs that you have. As I just explained, the process between signing a purchase contract for a new build and then really moving in, it can take 1.5 years, 2 years, 2.5 years. That is not totally strange. So take that into account. You will have to pay double housing costs in the meantime. Delivery time, as I said, 1 to 2 years, that is likely. Of course, you have also the registration that applies and that you need to take into account over here. You need to be able to subscribe to properties, to new projects. I have to say, in the past, that was really difficult. On today, you saw as well, there is a little bit less interest in new projects. So depending on the location, it's getting better over there and more easy to subscribe or to register for a new project. Of course, you don't have viewings. You only see the plans. That is very important. You will receive a lot of documents that describe what the property will look like and how it will be built, but you don't see it yourself. So also over there, I always advise to my clients to have an expert to look together to those documents, maybe a technical expert even, to see that you buy something that is worth the money and that will be finished in a good way. And yeah, the price is the price, as I said. That is still the case, is that it's a lot more difficult to negotiate on a new build than on an existing property on prices. Although on existing properties that was not easy the last couple of years as well, but now it's coming back a little bit. But for sure with a new build, that's difficult. Of course, there are still finishings to do, like the kitchen or the bathroom, or with the floor or without the floor and those kind of things. Maybe if it continues like this, that new builds don't get sold that easily, that those things will shift and change a little bit. Very important to know, I just made a summary, the purchase process is different with a new build, so take that into account. Also take into account that if you need a mortgage for it, it needs to be valid longer than 6 months for a new build, because of the fact that I just said, between signing the purchase contract also and signing the transfer deed with the notary, it can take longer than 6 months. So when you go to the notary, that mortgage offer, of course, still needs to be valid, and otherwise you need to pay a lot of extra costs. So if you go to the bank or your mortgage advisor, explain it's for a new build, because it will be a different offer that they make you. Of course, you have always a purchase contract, but with a new build, you also have a building contract. There are standards that are used for that, but of course, some specific developers also put some extra clauses in there. Ask somebody with a legal background, or your mortgage advisor, or your buying manager, to have a look at it, because very important to double check. You have other purchase costs that apply for an existing property, so take that into account. You don't have transfer tax. I told you already. You will have VAT that is included. You will have some other purchase costs as well that apply. So if you want to have the detail, yeah, feel free to get in contact with us, or to follow one of the next webinars. I will explain everything in detail. You also have other payment terms, and you also have other guarantees that apply. So all of those specific elements, take them into account, because otherwise maybe you make some mistakes. And then I think this one is very interesting and very important for everybody. It's the 1, 2, 3 of the market, I always call it, and it is somewhere the answer to the question, how much do we need to overbid? I give an example over here. We have the Wilhelminastraat. It's just a property, asking price for 475. You can see that at the right of the screen as well. And then we're going to look at the value of the property. What we see is that this property is valued at 520,000 euros. You see that's a difference with the asking price. That is something that often happens in the Netherlands, that the asking price is put under the value of the property. In the past, that was not the case. At a certain moment, somebody started to do that, most of the time in Amsterdam, and then the rest of the Netherlands took the same system, because they saw that when the property was sold, they had a lot of people who wanted to visit, a lot of people who started making offers against each other, and then the selling price was a little bit higher. It's easy like that. That's how it goes. So 475 asking price, 520 is the value, and the purchase price, we made a good offer over here, is 543,250 euros. Okay, then people always say, yeah, I made overbid a lot on the property that I bought. You see asking price is 475, and I bought it for 540,000. That's quite of a difference over here. It's 68 with the asking price. But if we look at the value, we see that it's only a difference of 23,000 euros over here. Yeah. So if you're going to put that in percentages and you say I overbid with 14% on the asking price, then as a result, or in the end, you only overbid with 4.5% on the value of that property. Yeah. I always try to explain this as I believe that overbidding you do on the value of the property. And that is the most important. You buy something, you want to have a value for the money that you put in. And also for your mortgage advisor, of course, the most important will be that value. It will not be the asking price. They don't do anything with that. So if you ask me, very important to have somebody to help you, to assist you with that, to have a clear view on the value before you make your offer. And then, of course, you need to see if it is necessary in this market to overbid on that property, yes or no. Again, we as the experts will have a look at references in the neighborhood and try to advise you the best of our possibilities. Then the purchase process in total. I'm going to run through it together with you step by step. What is always important is to have financial advice when you start. It is very important to know your budget. Maybe today you have a little bit more time, that is possible, but still you have around 26 days until a property is sold. That's everything included when people start selling their house and then sign the purchase contract. So you need to be fast if you want to buy a property at a good price. And so we say first have financial advice before you start the search. In the search, we can assist you with that. You can do it yourself. It doesn't matter. You know, a lot of websites, funda.nl, and there are some others as well, where most of properties will show. Some of them we will know a little bit earlier. We can share with you as well, but that is up to you to decide how you want to approach that. You do the search, you go to the viewing, or we make the viewing, we book the viewing for you, and we assist you going together. What we will do over there is, of course, have a look at the property and try to benchmark it with the market. Is it a little bit the standard of the market that applies for this property, yes or no? If we have that viewing and we say, okay, that's a nice property, we think we want to go forward, then we have two very important steps that follow. I always tell that to everybody because I also sometimes have some people that said, yeah, we came out and there was a lot of pressure, so we offered an amount before going out to the makelaar, and then he asked us to put it on email. We used our iPhone and just confirm the amount. I don't think it's the best way to do it, to be honest. A lot of times it is not necessary to act that fast. Of course, if it's an exception and you know the market very well, you can always do that, but I would not advise to the majority of the people. What is very important is to have the due diligence of the property, and also, again, to have the estimation on that value of the property. Yeah? The first thing, the due diligence, we will do on all the documents that we receive from the selling agent. And it's a due diligence on legal aspects, on technical aspects, also on the financing. For example, if you buy an apartment in a co-ownership, then of course over there as well, it is important to have a double check on that. So due diligence on the documents, we always recommend that. Sometimes we see also that there is not a permit for the total of the property and only for a part of it. Also those things we can check for you, and I think they are important to know, of course. Maybe there are also some easements that apply or some public restrictions. They're all important. And then the estimation of the value, we will do that over here for you. It is based on the references that we can find, and we will make then the best possible calculation of the estimation of the value. Sometimes it's very easy with a property. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult if you don't have the same references in the neighborhoods, but we will be transparent so you know exactly how we come to that value and how likely it is that the appraiser afterwards would put the same amount for you on paper. Because that's important, of course. You make your offer, and I come to that in a moment, how we will do that. But we make a nice offer for you, send it to the selling agent, and then it is accepted. So that means you can buy the property. Then we have still two experts coming in place. We have the appraiser, as I just said, because you will need to have the appraisal report together with the signed purchase contract to apply for a mortgage. And the second thing, and that's something you can decide to leave it in yes or no, but a lot of people also like to have a technical expertise of the property. Also over there, you will receive a report with the expected maintenance, and also if there are really major issues with property, it will be explained in the report. So after the offer, experts come in, very important for the value and the technical state. And then you're ready to sign the purchase contract. You can, as of that moment, if you have the signed purchase contract and the appraisal report, apply for the mortgage, and hopefully you will get the result or the confirmation very fast. What is important to know after the signing of the purchase contract is that normally you're bound by that contract. Yeah. The only thing is that the buyer still has 3 days, and that's called the cooling off period. Can still 3 days decide not to go forward with the purchase contract and cancel the contract without paying any penalties. Yeah, that is within that 3 days. After that 3 days, then normally you will have to pay a 10% fine of the purchase price, so that's quite high, unless you had the condition in the purchase contract that is conditional to approval of the mortgage by the bank. Yeah, then that is the only reason where you can still say, okay, we made this condition in the purchase contract, and I prove here I have a letter from the bank that I cannot have a mortgage on normal market conditions for this property. Then it can be a reason to cancel, but otherwise you need to pay 10%. So signing of the purchase contract, that cooling off period, and also your mortgage approval, they are quite important. After the mortgage is approved, you will have to pay the deposit in the account of the notary, that is. You can also provide a bank guarantee, that is an option. And then you will receive from the notary the final settlement. That's like the total amount you need to pay. It's the purchase price, it's all costs that you need to pay related to the purchase. There will be deducted, of course, the mortgage, and then the difference will still be paid by your own savings. If everything is okay, then we go to the notary. Before we sign the transfer deed with the notary, we still have the final inspection over here. Also interesting to know that a final inspection is not the same as the technical inspection that we had. Yeah, the final inspection is just to see that yeah, it took some time between you last viewing the property and now coming to the property to make it your own by signing the transfer deed. You just walk through the property, see that still everything is okay, that there is not, for example, a window that is broken with moving out or something like that, that the installations are still working, and yeah, all those normal practical things of a house. If there would be some problems with that, yeah, that's the reason, of course, you do that final inspection. You go to the notary and you make an agreement between parties, and maybe you deduct something from the purchase price, or the notary can block an amount in his accounts until everything is fixed again, everything is renovated before yeah, transferring that amount to the seller. So therefore is the final inspection, and then you go to the notary, and as I just said, when you sign the transfer deed, then you will be the legal owner of the property. You get the keys and you can use the property for yourself. Important to mention is that there is still a liability for the seller as well. If there are some things that he knew and he didn't tell you, you could not see it yourself in the documents that you received during the due diligence, but you cannot see it as well when the technical expert goes to the house. So nowhere you had a clue of a problem with the house, and you can prove somewhere that the seller know or should know, then you can still claim yeah, maybe a damage fee, or maybe the solution for that problem with the seller. It is important to do that within short notice. For example, if you have problems in, I say like the foundation with fungus, and you wait too long, then there are already some examples where the judge said in the end, yeah, you cannot prove anymore that it's from the seller or that he knew, because you took too long of a time to think about it and to come to me with that problem. Yeah. So liability of the seller, it is expected if you do that still within 2 months, then there is still some liability of the seller that is involved. And then maybe a lot of you like to know what is now a little bit the process and the timing on that. Of course, depending on your search and your viewing, it depends a little bit on what you're looking for and if it's in the market, yes or no. So I cannot put a real timing on that. What I can is to say that if you go to a viewing and you need to make an offer, then it was often that you needed to make an offer within 1 to 3 days. On very good properties in the market on today, that's still necessary. Yeah. If you go to Amsterdam and really the good neighborhoods with totally finished apartments, then you will need to be fast and make an offer within days. Of course, I see as well that outside of Amsterdam and in some cities or some locations, or maybe some properties with more work, then I see that sometimes on today it takes some weeks, or even some properties at the moment, they are standing in the market for more than a month already. So that's a difference, of course, and there we have some time to negotiate again, but depending on the property you're looking at. Then we have between the offer and the signing of the purchase contract, I told you experts come into place. Normally we make the offer and then the experts come within 1 week and then you sign the week after. Sometimes it's even a little bit faster because everybody likes to have the purchase contract signed as fast as possible and all information is available, but take 1 to 2 weeks over there. Then you have 6 weeks. That is normally the maximum timing that a bank needs to approve your mortgage. With some mortgage advisors, it's a lot faster. Even within 3 days, I saw it happening. Even within 1 day, I saw it happening last year. But now, let's say that in a normal situation, it will take you up to 6 weeks maximum. Take the average of 3 weeks as a good average for the most of the cases. And then after mortgage approval, you will need to pay the deposit or provide your bank guarantee. That will be 1 week. You have 2 weeks normally after that when you receive your final settlement. And then, oh, now it went a little bit too fast. And then, of course, you go to the notary and, of course, over there, everything is finished. So you can move in the property immediately. Yeah, it is always very difficult to put the timing for everyone, but we see that the fastest is around 3 months to say. Some people take 6 or 9 months, and some people look a little bit longer as well, and it takes 1 year. That is possible as well. But let's say the fastest will be around 3 months if you need to go through the total process. How to be successful? I said you before, there are 3 things that are very important to be successful in the market. The first thing is, and I said before, but I will come back to that topic again and again, is the budget. That's absolute priority. You need to talk to your bank or your mortgage advisor. If you don't know who to talk to, we can give you some references as well. There are some mortgage advisors as well, really specialized in expats, because sometimes with some personal things, it can be a little bit difficult to convince the bank. You can ask it at us, but even before you really go into the process with us, we will always ask you, did you speak to your bank or do you have a clear view on your budget? Because it's so important. The second thing is do your homework, and that we saw in the process. I explained already, due diligence and also the estimation of the value. Again, I think it's easy like that, but a lot of people don't do. And then afterwards they have problems with legal issues or technical issues. Or they said, we bought it at a price because we were really in love with the house. But I think we overbid a little bit if we see now what maybe some other houses are doing. And for sure in today's market, if you did this 1 year ago, then still market was going up quite fast. If you made a little mistake, then everything was okay. But on today, you need to be a little bit more careful. Yeah. So estimation of the value, I explained already how we can help you with that, or how an appraiser can help you with that. But that is very important. And then the last thing is, of course, make a good offer. On a lot of houses, there is still there is still more than one candidate for every house. So make a good offer. And that is the price. That is absolutely important. But that are also the conditions. And I have to say as well, we buy houses, but we sell houses as well. On today, those conditions for us are very important. If we have a price and it's the highest price, but we think it's unlikely that those people will be able to finance with a mortgage, because maybe of the value and the spread between the price they offered and the value we see. Maybe also because we don't see any proof that they went already to the mortgage advisor or to the bank or so on and so on. Yeah, then it is possible we advise our seller not to take the highest price, but maybe the second one or even the third one, because we believe that is the most valid offer at the moment. and the most secured offer, taking all conditions into account. It will be more and more important the next coming months, as everybody knows that if mortgage rates on the loans differ a little bit, some people will make an offer where they didn't do their calculations, and it will go wrong in the end. And that's the worst that can happen for a seller. So for sure, they will take that into account. Personal touch always added as well. If two offers are close, then it can still make a difference. And as I said, the fourth point over there is supportive information. If you talk to your bank, to your mortgage advisor, no matter which expert that can provide some numbers or some certainty about your offer, then of course add it to your offer as well, because it will only make it stronger. Yeah, if you follow all of these steps and these three important elements, then I believe you will be successful one day for sure. And it will also give you a property, I believe, that you buy at the right price, and that is also important. And then, as I said already, you have the purchase price, but you will have also some experts and some purchase costs you need to take into account. One of the experts is a mortgage advisor. I explained already, so go over there. The second one is the realtor or the buying agent. That could be us or somebody else that you choose. You can do it on your own. I don't say it's impossible, but yeah, we see a lot of times as well that realtors can give you some extra information. Also, sometimes can convince their colleagues in the market that the offer they make is a secure offer. So yeah, if you want to go forward, I would advise you to think about it. Technical expert, that's something, again, you need to decide if you want to pay that cost, yes or no, but often that cost is around 430 euros, 435 euros, even for an English report, I believe, and then you know everything about the property. So I would always put it in your offer, unless you say, yeah, for this one, it can make a difference to get the house, yes or no, and it's quite a recent building, then maybe you don't need to put it in. Then we have the appraiser. For sure, if you have a mortgage, you're obliged to use an appraiser because you need that appraisal report. And then you have the notary as well, also something that is necessary. He will make the transfer deed. That's like the purchase contract, but then in a notarial version to say. He will also make the mortgage deed to finance that property. So the notary, and then yeah, all the costs that are related to his works, you need to pay as well, of course. So purchase costs, how much are they? Calculate around 3 or 4% of the purchase price. That's more or less the amount that you need to take into account, but it will be quite close. And then you have the transfer tax as well, of course. As I said before, you can be exempted, or you pay 2%, or if you go to live there yourself, or if it's really like an investment, it will amount to 8%. But then also take into account, if you use it as an investment, also for the mortgage, it will be a different mortgage. It will be a buy-to-let mortgage, as they call it. And some other rules apply over there as well. So take that in mind, that there is a difference. And of course, I checked on the tax deductibility, I said before. But yeah, some of those costs you can deduct them from your taxes, always when they are related to financing of the property. Yeah. The last one that I want to mention here as well, just to make it complete, is the NHG, or the National Mortgage Guarantee, it's called. It's for properties with a purchase price around 355,000 euros. If you do some extra energy improvements, it can go a little bit higher. What is the good thing of this NHG is that, yeah, they somewhere give you a guarantee. Then when you cannot pay the loan anymore, they will pay that amount that is outstanding for you. And also what is important is that a lot of times you have a reduction on your interest rate if you use NHG. There are some yeah, conditions you need to apply to, of course, to be able to have NHG. But if it is the case in your specific case, then it's always good to ask your bank or your mortgage advisor to look a little bit in detail. The only thing I need to mention is that you will also have to pay a cost for that. So the moment that you buy and you apply, you will also have to pay a cost of 6% of the mortgage to have the NHG applied. So take that into account, because it can be that you need some savings for that as well when you go forward. And then I come to the financing of your purchase. I wanted to show you because I think it's very relevant, very important on today. Yeah, it needs to be part a little bit of your plan. Of course, what I said as well is that the interest rates, you see that in the graph very clear, of course, they went down until yeah, under 2%. Now they went up again. And here you see still on the graph, it's around 4%, but in the meantime, they're a little bit lower again. They're around 350. And experts tell me, of course, they don't know exactly, but they expect for the next couple of months that it maybe go down until a certain level of 3%. So we need to see what will happen with the different banks, but that is likely. You see in a historical level as well, then you see that the financing and the cost for financing your property is very low. People ask me as well, do we need to wait or do we need to buy today? I believe if the prices will go down a little bit, or at least don't go up anymore the next couple of months, and the interest rates go down a little bit again now, then I still believe if you finance around 3% or 3.5%, in a historical perspective, you don't finance at a very expensive cost. And you saw as well that the opposite of that is that if you see the increase of housing prices over the years, if you buy a house for the long term, then housing prices will always go up. And I saw some graphs already that it's also faster than inflation. So that means that you do a good thing with yeah, buying a house, having a mortgage that is at a normal level to say, and then hoping for the value of the houses to increase, but that is very likely for sure if you look at the long run. Yeah. So if you ask me, it is not a bad moment to speak to your mortgage advisor of your bank and see what is possible. Maybe August is too soon. Maybe you need to have a look in September. That is possible. As I said, decrease is expected on the short term, decrease on the long term, that is uncertain. So it can be a good moment. Yeah, before now to say in the end of the year to speak to your bank and to go house hunting. What is important always is to say that we are a realtor. I give you some financial information as well, but I'm not a financial expert. So know your budget when you purchase, also when you do renovation, that's also an option. I told you already that we see that houses that are in the market and need renovation often on today have a little bit of a discount or at least open to a little bit of negotiation. For renovations, you can also have a renovation loan next to the mortgage to purchase your house. Can be interesting to have a look at it. It is then somewhere like a deposit that you get in your account. And the moment that you start doing the works and have the invoices, then they will be paid by the bank using that deposit. Yeah, always double check, as I said as well, if the process takes a little bit longer than 3 months, before you search, check your financing, before you offer, double check. And also always double check on the validity of the period of the offer that you received, because of course that is very important. Yeah, and then I'm going to end almost, but still say something about the services that we can offer to you as well. We can offer you, as I said, we have 2 offices in Haarlem and in Amsterdam. So the main focus is around the north of Holland to say, but we can also assist you in the other cities in the Randstad, and even with our cheapest package to say, we can also do that all over the Netherlands, because we don't do any commute over there. In the full package, we do everything. So we help you with the search as well. We help you with the viewings, of course, and then you see every step we do in the process. We assist you until the transfer needs to be done. So that's the total all-in package, as we call it. Yeah, there we support you from A to Z. Of course, always important to mention, you have our fee and you have the cost of the experts. They are not included in our fee. Some people sometimes ask, yeah, but can you also offer a mortgage advice? I can not do that myself, but I have a partner who can do that. And in that respect, we can also offer you a total price if you really want to have that included as well. The all-in price for our package normally is around 4,500, including VAT. That is then the total all-in package with all of our services. In some cases, people say, yeah, but I spot the houses myself, and that's not always a bad thing, I need to say, because I experienced more than once that if we search for people, then sometimes even in the end, they come to a property where I say, yeah, but you gave me 5 conditions of a house or even 10 conditions of a house, and I don't see them in the specific house that you're sending me now, because that's totally different. But still there is some connection of the people with that house and they like it. So if you want to do the search yourself, then we can offer you our full service package, is the most popular as well. And that's just below 4,000 euros, 3,999, including VAT. That's somewhere what you need to think about. Of course, we also try always to relate to the budget, that it is a little bit in line with the budget of the house that you buy as well, of course. And then you have the basic service, as I said. You spotted the house yourself. You also don't say, yeah, I don't really need you to come to the viewings with me. I have eyes myself, and I bought some houses already in the past. So I just want you to double check on the due diligence. I want to make you the valuation before I make the offer. I want you to make the offer and send it to the selling agent. Also to help me with the experts afterwards, and then have a double check on the contracts. Yeah, that is possible as well. It's our basic service. And that's a price around 2,500 VAT included. And that we can offer all over the Netherlands, as I said, because we don't commute, because we don't participate in the viewings over there. For the valuations, there is no problem. We have databases where we have the data from all over the Netherlands, and we have our network as well, of course. So that's totally fine for this package as well. Voila, that was what I needed to say myself. I see that there are some questions in the chat. So I'm going to see if I can go through them. I think maybe you can see the screen as well. Let's see. Closing costs. I think I answered that question already. Which costs are in that total package? It's around 3 to 4%, and then also the transfer tax you need to take into account, and it are all the different experts that I mentioned you need to calculate over there, and the most important are the buying manager that you have, the bank or the mortgage advisor, the notary, the technical expert, the appraiser, and then also a translator with the notary, but that's a small amount of 250 euros. And then, of course, if I said as well, in HG, when it applies, you need to pay an amount for that as well. Yeah. Then I have here, what is the income account for a Mansak or freelancer who work for a few American and European clients? That's from Melanie or Melania. Yeah, that's something we need to check with a mortgage advisor. As I said, I can really recommend you some specific mortgage advisors that really know everything about you as an expat coming to the Netherlands and then looking into your profile, because that is indeed something that is a little bit more difficult than a standard application, and it is always best to have then an interview together with the experts on financing to respond to these questions. Will the recording be sent? Yes, I will send you the recording afterwards. The process to buy a property as an investment, the process is the same. That's a question from Estefania. But it is important if you buy a property to rent it out, that there are indeed some restrictions. As I said, there is now a national law that applies, but it is for every specific municipality. It is different what they decide on how to treat that in detail. And they can put specific measures in place where they say, for example, in Amsterdam, you need to have a WZ value above a certain amount, and otherwise you cannot buy it as an investment. Then you need to live in the property yourself. Yeah. There are some other cities that say in these regions, you cannot buy a property as an investment. You need to live in that property yourself. All those specific rules, we always need to double check for that municipality, of course. But I think on today, around 60% of the municipalities implemented those rules already. What is also important is when you have a mortgage for a buy-to-let, then it is not possible that you just have a normal mortgage. It will need to be a buy-to-let mortgage in specific for that. And that buy-to-let mortgage will have other conditions. It is also very likely that the interest rate for that buy-to-let mortgage. Now everything is going open here. The interest rates for that buy-to-let mortgage will be higher than a normal mortgage. And what also is important is that you cannot have 100% financing of that investment, but it will be normally maximum up to 70% of the value of the property if you want to buy it to rent it out. So all those different rules applies. So if you want to go for an investment, then double check on that. The process in the end is quite similar, but not all conditions are totally the same. As I mentioned before as well, also when you pay the transfer tax, you will need to pay 8%. So that's quite a difference with the 2% or even the exemption that you can have if you buy for yourself. Right? I think that I answered most of the questions that I could find here in the chat. I want to thank you all for joining over here. If you still have some questions, feel free to take contact with us. As I said, I will also share the recording with you. And maybe interesting if you take contact with us, share the code that I mentioned here on the screen as well, AMS VDB 2508. Then we can see if we can do something nice for you if you want to continue with our services. So for now, I wish you a good evening. I wish you all a good weekend as well. And then, looking forward to help you, of course, with going further in the process if you like to use our assistance. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.